Your Excellency, Honorable John Olutuaa, welcome to CGT and welcome to our broadcast. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to talk to us. Well, we're going to talk everything tourism.
Thank you.
As you know, the COVID-19 pandemic wreaked havoc all over the planet. Can you talk to us about the devastation that the Kenyan tourism industry experienced, and most importantly, share with us the recovery process?
Thank you very much, Richard. First and foremost, as already indicated, my name is John Olutuaa. I'm the Principal Secretary, State Department for Tourism. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be able to speak about Kenyan tourism. Before I speak about COVID-19, let me take this opportunity to say Kenya is a wonderful country. We actually call it magical Kenya. It has one of the best products worldwide, and that's why we continue to receive visitors across the world. And I therefore want to take this opportunity to welcome all people, those who have come Kenya, who have already come to Kenya, who have visited Kenya, and those who have not visited. You have asked the devastating effects of the COVID-19. First of all, COVID-19 was actually, I can say, a monster to the whole world because it affected travel, it affected businesses, and very many things that were very important to the livelihoods of the people in the world. Kenya was not an exception. Kenya was affected by the COVID-19 in very many ways. First and foremost, with the fact that there were no airlines, especially when the restrictions were put in place so that people were not able to travel. The airline industry was seriously affected. Many routes were closed. Many flights that were scheduled flights to many regions in the world were closed. And that in turn meant loss of jobs. So first of all, COVID-19 led to loss of very many jobs. Yes, sir. In Kenya. Many workers were laid off, particularly in the hotel industry because the hotel industry employs a big percentage of people in Kenya, those who work in our hotels, those who work in our travel companies, and any other sector that is related to the hospitality industry. So first of all, there was a loss of jobs. Number two was the loss of money. A lot of money, of course, was lost. Therefore, the income was affected. And this, in turn, was able to affect even the other sectors of the economy, like agriculture and the transport sector and other sectors that depended on the tourists or the visitors that were coming to Kenya. And so, therefore, I would say that the effects were very, very devastating, especially in terms of employment and loss of income and loss of businesses. And it also affected other sectors, even education, because at that time the institutions of learning were not really working the way they are supposed to be, especially for those students that were supposed to come for exchange programs from other countries and so on. But basically for the hospitality industry, some of the businesses were not able to open even after that. You also indicated then what was done at that time by the
recovery process.
The recovery process. First and foremost was the sensitization program, that the government developed a program through the Ministry of Health and in liaison with other ministries to be able to make the people understand what COVID-19 was, how they were supposed to, to protect themselves. And that's why they were able to teach people about social distancing, hygiene practices. I would even say there might be a positive effect on that because, because of the COVID-19, a number of people, even the hygiene standards are still being practiced up to today, that were not there before. Right. So the first element, of course, was the sensitization program, trying to make people understand. Secondly, vaccination was done, to be able to ensure that the immunity was improved. So the government of Kenya, through the Ministry of Health, was able to, to do that. Thirdly, there was also some of the tax waivers, especially for the hotel industries and other hospitality industry, that the government was able to employ. But apart from that, there was also a program which was, we would say, economic stimulus program for to be able to reform the sector. And the tourism sector was actually given at least 2.2 billion Kenya shillings. This was actually meant to assist the hotels and the tourism sector not to close as they waited for the pandemic the effects of the pandemic and the restrictions to be lifted up.
Right.
So those are some of the, apart from that, there was also a new phenomena which developed as a result of that, which we call domestic tourism. One of the things that was done, at least to ensure that life continues, was to encourage the Kenyan people who probably for one reason or another, sometimes when you have beautiful things,
yes,
you tend not to go and see, while others who are far come and see. I think that it gave also the Kenyan people an opportunity to understand what they have.
Were there price cuts with that privilege?
Yes, there was. They were given that opportunity to be able to visit our national parks, our game reserves, and even the hotels along the beach, along the coast, the Masai Mara and other areas were able to offer that opportunity. So we can say that a lot of domestic tourism was also promoted at that time as a measure of recovery to be able to ensure that the recovery was achieved due to COVID-19.
Interesting.
Now, after of course, the airspace was opened and the things now started becoming normal. Of course, there are many plans that maybe as we continue the interview, I will be able to give you some of the other specific programs that have been put in place to try and ensure that we recover. Right. And not just recover, to reach the numbers that, because before COVID-19, we had at least about 2.04 million tourists with an income of about 296 billion. And it came down to 870,000 around 2021. And we are happy right now, it has already gone up to 1.4 million. And in fact, if you look at the statistics that we are compiling that we will be able to release very soon, the numbers are actually going to be probably by July, August there, about 1.5 million or even more.
Yes, speaking of numbers, sir, you alluded to that. The Kenyan Tourism Board has suggested that tourism grew by over 1.4 million tourists by the end of last year and 0.9 million tourists by the end of 2021. What is your short-term projection for the end of this year and perhaps the middle of next year?
Thank you very much. We really don't want to be very much of ambitious, but we want to project, let's say 2023, we are projecting to go to about 2.35 million and by the end of 2023. And by 2024, we should be able to go to almost 3 million. We are projecting that by 2027, we should be between 3 to 4 million. So we are trying to do some realistic analysis. And this analysis we do through the Tourism Research Institute. In the tourism sector, we have a number of government agencies that are there to support. And each of them have a specific role to play. The Kenya Tourism Board particularly does the marketing role, to be able to market, to project what we have. But the Tourism Research Institute deals with the tourism research, to be able to understand the market, to understand what we need to do, and also to project the arrivals, and whatever income that we project to have. And we have many others, many other agencies like the Kenya Utalii College, which does the training. By the way, the graduates from Kenya Utalii College are known worldwide. If you went to China today, you will be able to get graduates from Kenya Utalii College, maybe as managers or even as chefs. So Kenya Utalii College is focusing on the training component to ensure that our hotels, like this one where we are today, is able to get qualified people who will be able to serve in a very efficient way, as one way of also attracting visitors.
Right, the future seems bright. Now, speaking of numbers and arrivals, talk to us about the diversification of international tourists from the non-traditional sources, perhaps China and other countries. What are your plans for that?
Thank you very much, Richard, for that question. It's a wonderful question. First of all, we have the traditional markets, which Britain, the United States of America, and others, which have been really supporting the tourism sector. And number one, we will still be able to ensure that the traditional sources are still enhanced and encouraged. But as you have asked, we want to diversify the source markets. And the source markets that we are looking at, first of all, we are looking at the African market, which we want to tap. We are looking at all the countries like Nigeria and many other countries in Africa. We have our neighbors here, Uganda, Tanzania, the East African community. Then we have the larger African continent, which we are trying to target because there are many things that they share with Kenya. If you look at the historical sites, the heritage, and the culture and so on, there's a lot that they can tap. So we are now focusing, we're trying to put our effort on that particular, the African market. But we're also looking at the Asian market and other areas that we have not been able to reach. I'm indeed happy to report that even China, currently the latest statistics I have is that we have over 55,000 Chinese who have actually come to Kenya as tourists. But if you look at the population of China, which I think, I don't know how what it is at the moment.
The
it's
billions.
A big population, isn't it?
Yes, very large.
Yeah, if I can just if we can get as Kenya just even about, even if just 50 million of them will be okay. So we are actually focusing on that, and we are focusing through many ways. First of all, we have the trade engagements like the exhibitions that we normally have. We hope that we will be doing a lot of exhibitions in countries that we are targeting. We also have the diplomatic missions, both in Kenya and abroad, which we hope to tap into by being able to link us with them. And we also have the Kenyan diaspora. I know there are many Kenyans in the Middle East and Asian countries who can be able to project what we have as Kenya. So we are asking the Kenya Tourism Board and the other agencies, of course, through our help. Our Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Penina Malonza, is, of course, very much on the forefront as the Minister for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage to be able to focus on this particular area. So we are actually focusing. And in fact, one of the major areas in the government, in tourism, is to diversify source markets. That's one of the critical components that even the government as a whole in totality is focusing.
All right, sir, you spoke about revolutionizing the tourism industry. I'd like to get your insights on that. But before that, Kenya is known for its beautiful beaches and safari.
Correct.
What other products do you plan to promote to boost international interest in Kenya?
Thank you very much, Richard. That's a very good question. First of all, I like where you have started. You know, Kenya is known for the safari. Yes. And I think it's only Kenya which we have not just the big five. Of course, we have the elephants, we have the buffaloes, the giraffes, the lions, the wild beasts, and all these other animals, which is actually which you are talking about, the safari, which is still very important to us. I would like to take this opportunity to inform the world that we shall have the wild beast migration in the Masai Mara in the month of July, around July, August there. And we also have the whales migration on the other side of the coast. But apart from the safari, there are a number of areas that we are now focusing to be able to attract the visitors to Kenya. Number one, we are looking at sports tourism. It's a very big component. We know there are people who like athletics, golf, and all other forms, football, boxing, and all forms of sports. We are working with the Ministry of Sports to be able to identify what we can do in the sporting area to develop sports tourism, either to develop training camps, to be able to do branding by use of that. So we're looking at sports tourism as one of them. Number two, we're looking at cultural tourism. Kenya is very unique. It has 47 tribes, and all of them are very unique. And they have very different cultural, they have cultural festivals, they have cultural rites. They also have other cultural aspects which touch on medicine, it touch on business, because if you look at for example, the Maasai community and the pastoral community, they do a lot of beadwork, which in itself is a business kind of creation. So we are focusing on culture to see how we can hold maybe cultural festivals in each county, how we can protect indigenous knowledge by identifying what is very unique and very critical in every county or every tribe, so that we're able to protect them and market. So we are focusing on culture through the museums, like the National Museums of Kenya and other cultural sites. Number 3, we are also focusing on agriculture, what we refer to agro-tourism. Kenya is known for one of the best teas in Kericho and the island area. We have coffee in Nyeri and other central region. We want to see what is it that we can do to tap into this sector, so that one, we would like the visitors to come and see how we grow tea, how we grow coffee. We would like them to see how we process the coffee. That's what we can call as tour farms. And we would like them to see the complete product. But not just that. We'd even like to invite them also to partner in terms of trade and open other opportunities. So we are looking at agro-tourism. We're also looking at cruise tourism along the coast, to encourage cruise ships to be able to be there. But we're also looking at the meetings, conferences, and incentives, which we call MICE tourism. Because if you look at this hotel and the other hotels here, probably they have conference facilities that attract people, either to hold international meetings and international forums and so on. So we want to focus, and we are going to start with the KICC, Kenyatta International Convention Center, which is an icon of Kenya's history. And we want to transform it into one of the world-class institutions that can be able to attract conferences, international conferences worldwide, as part of, I can say, one of the ways of bringing tourists to the country. But not just that, we are working with closely with the State Department for Culture to look at Bomas of Kenya, look at how we can have a convention there, but also partnering with the private sector, because government cannot grow alone. So we are partnering with the private sector on the area of conference facilities, those who would like to put hotels in Kenya, to put very good facilities in Kenya, that visitors will be able to come, can be attracted. We're also looking at some of the things that have not been identified. Let me give you an example. We have Turkana and Marsabit County. We have, of course, the Chalbi Desert, which can be tapped into a very, very important site that can attract the world. We have the Lake Turkana, which is one of the, fresh lakes. There's a lot of fishing there. We can be able to have sports tourism along that particular area. And by the way, Turkana is the cradle of mankind. If you went to the National Museums of Nairobi Museum here, Nairobi National Museum, I encourage you, Bwana Richard, to go there.
I will definitely go there.
That the origin of mankind was actually somewhere in Loyangalani in Turkana.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we want to develop some of the sites that have not been developed. We have our mountains, a bit like Mount Kenya. We want to look at how, in partnership with the KWS and wildlife sector, how we can be able to transform the infrastructure to make the mountain accessible, and to be able, for those who want to come and see the mountains, to be able to see. And therefore, we're also looking at adventure. We have if you went to the Western Circuit, we have the Kakamega Forest, we have the in Rusinga Island, there are a lot of sites to be seen. So we're also looking at that. Just to mention, I'm sure the time will not allow me to mention all of them, but we're also looking at the medical tourism. Kenya is also known to offer medical treatment. We have a number of hospitals like the Kenyatta University. They have a very big facility. We have our Kenyatta National Hospital and many other hospitals. There are many people who are coming for medication. We want to see how we can tap into that. But also we want to tap into the social aspect. Maybe those who want to come and do filming in Kenya, those who want to come and do wedding in Kenya, we can be able to offer them nice places. We have the Baboon Parliament in Suswa, in Narok County. They can come and do the wedding there and see, see some of the good things that we have there. So we have a lot. I know next time I'll get more time to be able to highlight on the very many areas that we have to be able to develop much more products than we have at the moment.
Your Excellency, Honorable John Olutuaa, I know you have another important meeting to get to, but we want to thank you for your time. Thank you so much. And the future of Kenyan tourism is definitely bright. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Maybe just to add one or two, I say that there are three, I think it's good for me to mention this. We're looking at the brand repositioning also.
Brand repositioning.
Yeah, we want to reposition our brand. And we also want to develop new source markets. That's what I told you. And we're also developing new products. That's what I also explained about the new products. But above all, which I really wanted to mention, is that here in Kenya, the government works as one. So we have all the different ministries that are working together. And particularly the tourism sector actually relies on all the ministries. So that we are looking at what we can do about our roads, the road network and many other connectivities that we need to do. So we are also working very closely with the other state departments and ministries to be able to ensure that any enablers that we need to do, be it a road, be it an airport, be it security, which we are working now through the tourism protection service. We have the tourism police unit, which deals with, to ensure that we have our tourists and visitors are secure and they are happy. So we're looking at it in broad terms so that we are not working alone as the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage, but we are working as one to be able to realize the dream that we have. We are dreaming that one time there will be many tourists beyond the numbers that we are talking about. There is no reason why we should not have 10,000. I mean, so that we're not just talking about 1.4 million. We are looking at a time that we'll be talking about over 10,000 tourists in Kenya. So I want to take this opportunity to appreciate all the countries that have partnered with Kenya, all the visitors that have been coming to Kenya to be able to enjoy our safari and what we have, and to encourage them that Kenya is happy to receive them.
Indeed, sir. Kenya tourism is magical. Again, thank
magical.
you.
In fact, the word is magical.
Magical Kenya. Yeah, that is correct.
Kenya.
That is correct. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
We hope to see you again very, very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.